first lightning talk. The floor is going to be yours in just a second. Let's see if we can hear you okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hello.
Hey guys.
Hello. People will be trickling in, and we don't have time for Q&A now for these lightning talks, but if people want to ask you questions, they should find you on the Slack, and I'll make sure to put the name of the channel. It should just be community conference. So people will find you there and tag you, ideally. And I'll be coming in a little bit once you guys get started. And I think you also have screen to share. So let me see if I can pull this up.
Perfect. Thank you, Adam. And thank you for having us. Without further ado, I would like to say let's kick it off. Because today we will talk to you about the assess the value and feasibility of LLM use cases with a checklist. So just want to you guys to imagine something. Imagine starting on a project, you gather with a nice group of colleagues, you have an amazing assignment from the business, you're energized and you feel like, yes, this is something that we can do. You're all working or running in this case towards the same goal. But then the rock bottom hits, you get stuck, you feel like the project is going nowhere, it's getting stuck in quicksand, and the agreed goal seems unreachable, you're talking a different language, and you don't make any progress at all. It's frustrating, and it feels like you're wasting your time. We know how that feels, because we see that happening on our clients a lot. My name is Eva. I'm a data strategist and practice lead Gen AI here within Xebia. And looking at the business, talking from a business perspective, we have to explain to the organization the impact that we want to make with our use cases all the time.
My name is Rens Dimmendaal. I'm a principal data scientist and a technical practice lead, Gen AI at Xebia. And I often have to explain to my customers what is the technical feasibility of these use cases. Yeah, I do that all the time. And then, what we want to do with, what we really learned there is that success is basically, for a large part, avoiding the bad projects. And today, our goal is to basically give you a tool, a simple tool that lets you connect this business and technology type of people on what drives the impact and the feasibility of these LLM-powered use cases.
So let's start with a basic tool or canvas that every business person would understand. On the screen, you see the impact feasibility matrix. And of course, looking at this matrix, everybody wants to be in the upper right corner. We want to execute use cases that are of high impact and that are feasible to execute. And of course, we want to avoid the ones that are in the lower left corner. We want to eliminate the ones that are low feasibility and have low impact. If we pick one of the use cases that is either in one of the yellow blocks, it means that we have to build our capabilities or that we have to accept that these are just quick, small gains. These days, we see generative AI as being a really hot topic. We see customers coming to us asking for a specific Gen AI use case or an LLM use case. And during all these ideation workshops that we currently host at clients, it's all about LLMs. I want an LLM, and an LLM is everywhere. But is it really something that is always solving your issues? Or is it the golden hammer syndrome? Is it just the hot topic, the new best thing that people want to use? Looking at this recent article that we've seen on Reddit, they also talk about LLM as being a hype. Is it always the best solution, or can be the more good old-fashioned AI or data science also solve the issues that we have? To assess the impact of a use case, and in this case specifically an LLM use case, we use these 4 pillars in our checklist. So we look at the customer profile, who is the customer or who's the user that will use this solution. We look at the job to be done. We discuss the Gen AI solution that the business has in mind and challenge them on the question, do you really need an LLM, or can this be done in a more traditional, good old-fashioned AI manner? In the end, we always check on the value drivers. We believe that an LLM is of good value in case it's better, it's faster, and it's cheaper compared to another solution that you might find. But going back to this matrix, that's just one of the axes, impact. We have another one that is focusing on
feasibility. So for the feasibility drivers, I think it's safe to say that people in the conference today, you know what the feasibility drivers are. But what I really want to share with you is, again, a little checklist so that it becomes easier to communicate these drivers with your business stakeholders, that you have something to take along when you have this conversation. So let's go through these things. The first one is the level. Are we doing just the prompts, retrieval augmented generation, or agents? And with agents, we know you're chaining multiple prompts together. Accuracy is not so great. So if you compound it, it's going down. Jan LeCun has made some great slides about that. He keeps talking about it on Twitter, much to my enjoyment. Take this along with you. The second one is how you're deploying this use case. Is it batch or on demand? There, the key driver is latency. Chip Ewan gave a nice talk on the last edition of LLM Production Conference. There she showed how a response can easily take half a second to 2 seconds. But for business people, you want to connect that to that speed matters. And then you can use examples like the BBC's website had a 1 second slowdown that resulted in a 10% drop in viewers. Amazon reportedly loses 1% of revenue every time the website slows down for 100 milliseconds. That makes it tangible. Is latency an issue? Well, then maybe that makes it less feasible as a use case. The third one, automation. Human in the loop or fully automated. There, the keywords are reliability, so the performance, but also how risk averse are you? To make that relatable, I always like this example. So 90% accuracy, is it any good? Well, if we're recommending movies on Netflix, maybe it's okay. We can go fully automated. But if we're answering patient questions, I probably want to stay human in the loop over there. Next one, the user. Is it internal or external? There, the keyword is responsibility. And I like responsibility because you can split it up in response and ability. And it's a lot easier to respond to your internal users. They can more easily reach you, but also for you to reach them. It's a lot easier. So it's easier to start with internal users. Then the task, is it a specific task or an open-ended task? Everybody wants to turn whatever they did now into a chat application. That's quite hard. If you already have an existing UI, existing success metrics, and you know what you want to get out of it, a use case becomes a lot simpler. The example that I like the most about that is actually from Philip Carter from Honeycomb. He was on the MLOps.Community podcast, is now also on this conference, and he showed out for their product, they used to have this, or they still have this complex query tool, and they knew that if people use it, then they're likely going to stay with their product. But now they changed it to also have a natural language query assistant, and they saw that usage really went up. They didn't have to invent a new UI. They knew what they were looking for in terms of success, and they could also really validate the output of the LLM because you could see, hey, is this a very valid query, yes or no? Go see his talk later today. Then, next. It's the final two. It's the model. So vendored via API, open source or tuned models. It's a lot easier to get started with a standard model. But I actually see quite some business users telling me like, oh, should we now be training our own models? And I think it's nice to be able to explain to them, well, let's start with an off-the-shelf model, and then we'll see if we need to tune it. And then finally, the data. I like to distinguish between, let's say, public data, company-level sensitive data, and individual-level sensitive data. You always, of course, need to check the terms and conditions for this data. But a good check with people when they talk about tuning or retrieval augmented generation is, okay, then we need to think more about, what level of sensitivity do we have, and how does that make our application more complex when we need to delineate who can see what. So there you have it. These are the 7 feasibility checklist items.
Yeah, so putting it all together, in the beginning of this talk, we showed you the feasibility impact matrix, a common business tool that is used within the business side of the company quite a lot. And we combined it with 2 checklists. One to assess the impact of an LLM use case, and one to assess the feasibility of an LLM use case. So I think we could say that it's not rocket science, but you have to do it together to actually show whether the use case that you or your business counterpart has in mind is actually bringing value to the organization because it makes impact and it's feasible to execute. we can imagine that having a lot of information in the past 10 minutes might be a bit of an overload. So if you want to reread the slides again or use the checklist within an assignment that you're working on, please download our slides or reach out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. And you guys should be on the Slack. I'm sure people will have questions for you. These frameworks sound incredibly useful. I can already picture a few startups that I should send this to assess or reassess whether their investments are worthwhile. Thank you very much, Eva and Rens.